Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab special. This is the second part of our in-depth look at a couple of features of Cubase. I'm Nick Batt, editor of SonicState.com.
And I'm Gaz Williams, a bass player and music producer.
Last time we looked at Cubase and the way that you can work with the tempo detection and tempo mapping to free the musician from the tyranny of the grid.
Tyranny of the grid, I like that. Yeah, fantastic. So obviously watch that because it's, I think it's quite mind-blowing, revolutionary.
Definitely.
This time, however, we're going to be looking at something completely different. We're going to be looking at the chord track.
I don't think I've come across this before, so I'm quite excited to learn more.
Yeah, great. Well, you know, the chord track, as I mentioned, it goes through the whole project. It's not just a track, it can kind of control the whole project. So all will be revealed now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start with just a blank project. And well, we're going to add a chord track. So I'm going to go up and to our project, add track, and we're going to add a chord track. Okay. And now the chord track is just like, it's like a track. It doesn't do anything at the moment, but what we need to do is we need to add events, chord events on there. And we can do that with the pen tool, or what's better is I use the Alt toggle key.
That's if you're on a Mac, which we should say this is 7.5.3, is it, on OS X? Right.
Exactly, yeah. So I've just added 4 chords in there. So I'll just make the loop. Let's just make a 4-bar loop, okay, just to start with. So what we're going to do is we can go in, and we got like an editor here, but so we could say like we could give this chord a D. And let's just zoom in a little bit.
Right.
And it, you know, we can see D minor, diminished, D7.
So our first chord,
D minor 7.
Whatever we want, really.
But really, we need to set up something as a monitor track so we can actually audition these chords.
Okay.
So in this case now, I'm going to add an instrument track, and we'll add a Halion Sonic, and we're going to bring in like a piano. Okay. So let's have a little browse here of Halion. Okay, acoustic grand piano, that'll do. So now if I press play, okay, so we got one chord playing there. So let's add a second chord. Now we can go back to this editor.
So put whatever we want in.
Choose any chord, but the interesting bit is the chord assistant, because the chord assistant looks at the chord before it, and it then will give you a selection of chords.
Oh, that might follow.
That might follow, and there's, you know, different modes that you can choose that would, you know, like common notes or cadence. Common notes would like look in the chord for notes, similar ones. Cadence has like a musical,
like a sequence.
A sequence, yeah. Okay. And the type lets us kind of choose between how to voice the chord. You know, the blues voicings and whatever. We'll just keep it full, and then we'll look. Now, the complexity slider, like if we take it all the way to the left, well...
There's nothing. There's nothing that can follow that chord.
With complexity level 2, it's given us 3 choices. And as we go up through the complexity, it's given us more and more choices.
Wow,
and
so we get into real sort of jazz.
Yeah, and the colours kind of change.
Red, only use with extreme caution.
Yeah, so we'll take that back. Well, let's have a look here. And... so as I click on different chords, we can kind of get a preview of them. When you're working with the chord track, the cursor keys on the typing keyboard become a really great way to navigate this, because what it lets you do is, rather than having to play and wait for the chord to choose, you can actually just toggle between them, and then with left and right, but the up and down lets you
choose the selection. Right, so it allows you to build a chord sequence quite quickly, so, okay.
Yeah. You can see that as a way of working, just quickly getting...
You can get an idea of what chords are going to sound good together, or
yeah. So, what do you reckon then?
So we've got quite a lot of power over the actual structure of the chords, just with sort of clicking around.
Exactly, and I think it's really nice because you don't need to use a chord assistant, but it's there. Right. And you know, you can just simply work in the editor, and you know, for instance, maybe you've written a song on an acoustic guitar or on, you know, on a piano, and then you know what the chords are, so you just might want to go in. Dun-dun-dun. Now, alternatively, you see we've got MIDI input turned on. You can put the chords in manually using MIDI input. If you had a MIDI recording, it can extract the chords from the performance as well.
Right.
So there's numerous ways to actually tell the chord track what the chords actually are. But I think when things get interesting is what can you actually do with that information once you've got it there. Here's a nifty thing. I'm going to zoom this in. Running along underneath the chord track, we can actually see a little indicator which is telling us what the current scale
that would fit
underneath those chords. So that's really cool because that, you know, if I was to click on the scale,
it just plays it.
It will play the scale. So, you know, and if I click on it, it'll show me a little sort of diagram of what the scale looks like. Now, I mean, we're obviously just working fast through this now, but if you're to do your whole arrangement like this, then you could imagine it's quite an interesting way.
You could throw chord substitution into the second verse or the bridge or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and like these items, you know, I can just treat them if I, you know, I can drag them around, you know, if I, you know, as if they're just objects.
Patterns, yeah, so that you can repeat sequences.
Yeah, so, you know, like making a bigger, you know, longer chord sequences, etc. Copying and pasting, moving them around, you know, with ease. Now, one of the things that's a crucial thing to bear in mind is that these chords can be changed at any point. You know, you're not fixed. As soon as you use these chords, you're not actually fixed to it. And we're going to demonstrate that in our next example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a project that we prepared earlier, which has got a few things set up in it, and to illustrate that point. The project I'm loading in hasn't got anything in it other than a few tracks already set up. So
right, okay.
Yeah, on the screen here we can see I've got these 4 vocal samples that I've
similarly tuneless and just plonked on the timeline.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, I've plonked them on the timeline, but there's no pitch to them or anything.
Well, we've got a little click going on there.
That's a groove agent. So I can open up Groove Agent SE, but I'm also using in the insert the beat designer.
Oh right, which is it's like a pattern-based
thing.
Right.
Okay.
So it just gives you something to work to.
Right? Yeah, and I've got some MIDI tracks set up, which will come into play in a moment. So the first thing I'm now going to do is I'm going to add some chords into our, and I'll just put one
on every bar.
One in every bar. Again, jumping into the editor. Would you like to?
Let's start with F, shall we, this time?
F, okay. F. And then we'll go to our chord assistant. So B flat, let's just keep it dead cheesy for now. Okay.
And again, that's you're using the cursors to move along the events and then select the chords down the chord assistant.
So we'll start with this in a real super cheesy way. Now, okay, so now we've got these chords. We'll go to the vocal track and we can see that there's a chord track part here, which I'm going to say is going to follow auto. So if I zoom out here, follow chord track, I'm going to have it follow directly. So I'll turn that on. Now,
okay, so it's tuned them.
It's tuned them.
I mean, basically, but we're now following those chords.
Exactly. Right? So, you know, that was very, very quick. And what I can do is if I select all of those and I go up to audio and then I can generate harmony voices. So select that. Generate harmony voices. Number of voices, 3. You can have up to 4 voices generated. Reduce vibrato strength, just a way of...
Just flatten it out a bit.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to turn that back a bit. I'm going to let some of that lovely natural vibrato.
Mellifluosity.
Ooh, I say. Right, I choose OK, and now we can see that
it's
generated all those tracks out of my original vocal track. It's created a soprano, an alto, and a tenor voice. If I had the 4 voices on it, it would then have created a bass voice as well. So now, if we play those, we'll hear that.
Okay, so it's generated harmonies there based on the chord track.
Yeah, exactly, and it was so quick. But now I'm going to introduce an interesting concept, which is that of track versions. So track versions was a new idea that was implemented in Cubase 7.5, which allows you to have alternate takes. Now, we've been able to do this before on the same track, and it would create lanes, so like for comping between different lanes.
Okay.
But track versions lets us kind of actually have a completely different track. So if I was to create a new version, it would essentially
So it's like a new playlist, essentially.
Yes.
I mean, if you were to think of it in Pro Tools terms,
Yeah,
which is one of the main selling points of Pro Tools, the ability to have multiple takes or multiple playlists or multiple edits on the same track and select them. This is a similar kind of notion.
Yeah, and it's great in a way because it means then that, you know, whatever processing you've got on that channel, you know, you don't have to create a duplicate channel just to sort of have another crack at something. And then there are ways then to merge them back again or to turn them into lanes should you wish.
Right.
But anyway, in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the chord track because you can create a new track version of the chord track.
Right, so a sort of alternative arrangement.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So let's just add a bunch of chords. And let's make it really different. So I think in this first chord, we're going to go, let's say, A flat 7th, and we'll skip across here. We'll use a chord assistant again. C sharp minor, let's E flat 7, and let's finish on the A flat major.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right, interesting. Can we flip between versions on the fly?
Absolutely. So let's let that play through. So we'll go to our track versions here. So see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flip.
Right.
Yeah.
So that gives you, and presumably now, I mean, can we now add additional instrumentation and that change the entire arrangement?
Yeah, absolutely. And a cool way to do that is if I select our chords, if I drag them down, I've got a MIDI track down here, we've got some pizzicato strings, and you see, as I drag them down,
it creates MIDI
it created
data.
MIDI data. Now, again, I'll select the track, and here, this MIDI track, by the way, has got an arpeggio inserted into it, and in the chord track,
Just zoom in that a bit.
yeah, in the chord track, we'll need to tell it to follow the chords.
Right, okay. So then that will also now follow whatever is in the chord track.
Exactly. So if we play that now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Switch back.
yeah, yeah.
So I solo that now, actually. So our box standard chords, switching over to our jazzy chords.
Right, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
There's some more instrumentation in there, so we got a couple of other tracks, haven't we? So
Yeah, so we've got another synth which has got an arpeggiator set at a different rate. So again, I'm just going to drag this down.
And it doesn't matter which version of the chord track you drag down there, it'll still just basically...
Yes, so long as like so.
well, as long as the yeah.
Yeah, I've
Unless
got to make sure it follows,
Right.
set it to follow. Okay, so let's just listen to that one now.
Okay.
And swap the chords up to the other ones. So you can hear they're following. Let's run our two new MIDI tracks together. Swap.
Right.
So you're starting to see the power of this chord track. The way that it can permeate through the whole project and how everything...
So it's working on the audio there. I mean, this is monophonic audio.
Yes.
Does it work on polyphonic audio?
Well, not yet. I mean, it'll have a go, but it's not really designed for that.
Okay.
Not yet. So hopefully in the future we'll see.
So what does that sound like altogether?
Okay, let's take out our solo. Let's play it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and our other version. So it's,
Right. I mean, that we've made those very different, but they could be related. And so,
yeah.
And what about? I mean, the thing that's quite interesting about this, would it be possible to then sort of almost jam the different versions of chord tracks over time, so you could end up with a sort of arrangement on the fly, or is that asking too much?
No, I don't see why not. I think that'd be a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Right.
And so with Cubase, once you start to put all of these different features together, track versions, chord tracks, and we could in fact add an arranger track as well, and this is a whole different kettle of fish. The arranger track is where we can define regions of time. So I'll have an A section there and a B section here, and then with the arranger track we can say let's have A happen twice, and we'll have the B section happen once. And actually, do you know, we'll make another little one. I'll create a tiny little one there, and I'll move that somewhere there, like a C section.
Right.
And we'll have a few of those C sections. So then, so we can run this now, the arranger, and then have.
Right, so that is really powerful. I mean, this is sort of starting to encroach into sort of live territory almost, isn't it? The Ableton kind of thing.
Yeah,
albeit in a more linear fashion.
Yeah, so I was just thinking though, when you build your track and the fact that all of these parts are not fixed, so it does take away the linear aspect of the timeline, the fact that these things can all move, change, and be subject to your creative whims.
Right. I mean, so in terms of songwriting, or perhaps a rearrangement of, say, if you're working on a remix, I mean, these tools could change enormously. I mean, because quite often when I've worked on remixes, you take the chords, you invert them, you substitute them, you change the bass notes. And with the chord track, you could actually have a few different versions of that would then fire the whole thing. I suppose the only limitation is polyphonic audio tracks.
Yeah, I guess so, at the moment, yeah. So, the creative potential, though, is vast.
Yeah, I can see that. That's incredible.
Yes. So I think that pretty much covers what we wanted to look at in the chord track today.
So that's it for this time. I want to say thanks very much to Gaz for showing us around the Cubase Chord Track feature.
Oh, my pleasure.
If you want to see more on the subject of Cubase, we've also shot another episode, which is...
Well, it's the tempo mapping, taking live audio and making the grid conform to the live music.
Yeah. Also, excellent, worth watching. And if you want to stay in touch, obviously, subscribe. It's the only sane thing to do. There will be a button appearing. And in the meantime, thanks very much, Gaz, for joining us. We'll see you another time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.